This is episode 23. What can the ugly tree teach us about AI? And so, the ugly tree. The ugly tree being a concept of you see a person and, you know, they are hideous, ugly. They hit every branch on the way down the ugly tree. They were at the top, fell down, hit every branch, was healed by Buddha, fell down some more, hit every branch, was then healed by Jesus, fell down the tree, still landed on the ground, and they are at the base of the ugly tree, just one ugly motherfucker. That is kind of how AI works, honestly. So let's go over what AI is, what it does, and how it can be used. And then we'll discuss just a little bit more about AI. So I want to clear something up that really kind of bugs me. And I hate the term AI now. I didn't used to. I do now. Because AI is being used as a buzzword. AI this, AI that. Let's use AI integration. Let's AI this problem out of existence. Shit like that. My boss and several other normally competent people have been throwing around AI as a buzzword like it's some magic. And this happens with a lot of new technologies, a lot of new concepts where people go out of their way. The cloud, it used to, people used, the cloud will solve all of our problems. And now they're saying, the AI will solve all of our problems. And it won't. And so AI, what is it? What it is? AI, artificial intelligence. That's the definition. If you didn't know that, then you probably shouldn't be listening to this podcast and should go back to playing with toy blocks. But artificial intelligence is a concept where you are applying predetermined logic towards a problem that may or may not have a foreseen outcome. So, for instance, AI is really good at making logical decisions, and it can break it down into math or however you have your flowchart, your decision tree branching. And this is kind of what is called a language model. And so what you'll hear thrown a lot into AI is you'll hear the term large language model, or LLM, or llama. These are basically data sets and decision trees and algorithms that AIs use to determine their logical paths. This is a process by which the AI will fall down the ugly tree and hit every branch. This is how AI works. And so when you ask AI a question, it hits every branch on the way down and asks a question. So, for instance, if you ask it, what is the best way to take care of a cat, or give me a statement about taking care of a cat, a lot of what it's going to do is it's going to first define what your sentence actually means. And so it's going to try to understand that and put it through a lot of different algorithm and detailed data sets to kind of define in logical terms what the hell you're trying to ask it. And so it's going to do a lot of different things, but every time it does it hits a branch, because what it's doing is it's trying to understand which direction it needs to go, how it needs to define your statement. Eventually what it will do is it will build a definition of what you've asked it and come up with a series of answers. But every time it comes up with an answer, it throws it down the ugly tree again, and it hits every branch to make sure that every time it hits a branch or that it passes every check. And so you could possibly have a million different concepts being thrown all at once, and the AI is going to choose which one is most correct. Now, large language models can work in a lot of different ways, but the vast majority of them basically analyze how correct something is to the answer that is being asked. And so it will basically try to weigh that in percentages or some similar mathematical way to give the most correct answer it possibly can. And this is how AIs work, but this is also how they end up failing. And this is one of the reasons why I like to say the ugly tree, because this is how you get hallucinations in AI. If you don't know what a hallucination is, hallucinations are parts of an answer from an AI that it has just completely made up. And that is because as this concept, this answer, this query has fallen down the ugly tree, instead of falling down the correct side of the ugly tree, it's worked its way into a different side. It's decided that, yes, cats are dogs, and so therefore dogs are wolves, and therefore wolves must be set free and live in land, at least with a land area of at least 25 square miles. And so that then you'll get this weird ass answer that is completely wrong, and no person who knows anything about the animal of a cat, a house cat, would know that they would know that this is not right. But because the AI is completely trusting in its logic and this ugly tree that it's now thrown the answer down, it creates this answer that just gets uglier and uglier and uglier as it hits every branch. And instead of one that hits the branch and might come up with a less ugly answer. I won't say pretty, but at least a less ugly answer. But this is how AIs work. They basically throw stuff down this tree and it bounces around until it comes up with an answer that by calculation is most correct to what you've asked it, or at least it thinks is most correct to what you've asked it. Again, hallucinations are these things that AIs basically make up. They see something and they kind of go into this tangent. And you'll see this if you ask AI to create art. It's getting better and better because they're creating more branches on the ugly tree to try to catch these. But one of the things you'll see is if you ask an AI to draw a hand, it'll add 3 fingers, or it'll get really stuck on fingernails and the fingernails will look really weird, or you'll have uncanny valley with something on the hand. And that's entirely because the AI is kind of hallucinating that detail. It's kind of like, I'm not sure what to do here, and it just does whatever will give it the most correct answer. You'll also see this in videos. There was a video released, I can't remember the name of the AI model that they were using, but it was a video of this woman walking, and as she's walking, it looks like she kind of does this skip. Like visually, that's how it appears. But what's actually happening is she's actually walking twice with her right leg. It looks like her left leg starts the step, but then it's her right leg that ends the step. And so that was a hallucination where the AI just kind of switched feet all of a sudden. And you'll see these sorts of things, and that's how that's how we make AI better, is when it has a hallucination, we build another branch. We put another branch on the ugly tree for it to hit so that it stops and maybe, this wasn't the right way, this wasn't the right answer, and it falls in the other direction instead of doing what it was doing. And so in a very dumb and quick way, that is essentially how AI works. Now, again, AI, what it is essentially just an algorithm. It is a logic string. It is an if-then statement, just a lot of if-then statements. If this, then that. If this, then that. If this, then that. Else. Else is another really good one, because else means if it didn't equal that, that's the pre-existing condition, then else does this. So unless you're really familiar with programming languages and how to code and how to script and things like that, you probably might not quite understand the if-then-else statement. But just know that if you draw a flowchart, your if is the split line. It's where things split. If this is yes, then we go down this way. If no is this, if this is no, then we go down the other way. That is essentially how the if-then statements work. It's just a flowchart. And you can equate all algorithms to just a very complicated, complex, difficult algorithm that it is accessing. And large language models are kind of the back end of all of that. It is the logic stream and additional algorithms that the AIs will use to answer the questions that you give it, to answer the prompts that you give it. So you'll see a lot of these things in AI as you dive deeper into them. So how to use it. What does AI allow us to do? Might be a better question. What does it allow us to do? What does it allow us to not do? What are its limitations? So on and so forth. So AI, again, it is not the answer to your problems. It is not going to fix everything you possibly could ever want to fix. It's not going to solve every problem you might have. It might answer every math problem and or write every report you might need, but it is not going to be the solution to every single problem you have ever faced. And the reason for that is that AI, again, is just a decision tree. It is just a flow chart. It might be very complicated and complex, and it may be very interactive, but it is nothing more than that. And what you can equate it to is, again, at the beginning of the cloud boom, where everybody was like, cloud will solve our problem, cloud will solve our problem. When you say, I'm going to put my business in the cloud, I'm going to use the cloud, I'm going to access the cloud, all you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to be using somebody else's computer. That's it. The cloud is just somebody else's computer. And AI is just somebody else's logic stream. And that's all you need to understand, is that AI, you're giving the decision and logic to somebody else. Now, it might be a machine that you're giving it to, but you're just giving it to somebody else. That there is no additional way to coat that other than it's just somebody else's logic. And I don't know how many of you trust somebody else's logic. Hell, I don't even trust my own logic half the time. I definitely, for fuck's sake, do not trust somebody else's logic who I've never met. And I'm going to fact check everything that AI does. So when you implement AI resources, you have to remember that this is somebody else's logic stream. You're still going to have to do the work. You're still going to have to fact check this thing. You're still going to have to understand what it's talking about, because hallucinations do happen, and they are very real, and they can prevent you from progressing your work. So what can it do? Like, what can AI do? Well, it's really good at sorting data, and it's very good at analyzing information to a specific point. You can't ask AI which one of these is better, because it may not understand what that means. It may not understand what better means. It may not understand what these mean. It's going to give you something that is mathematically provable to itself, and you may not be able to see the back end of it. So for instance, if you were to give it two books, if you were given AI two books and you're going to ask the AI which of these books is better, it's going to give you a non-answer. I almost guarantee it's going to give you a non-answer. It's going to give you something akin to, this book is rated as this, and this book is rated as this, and it's not going to tell you which one is better. It's going to give you ratings and possibly critic reviews and things like that, but it's not going to be able to tell you which one is better. So, and that is because the AI doesn't have that capacity. It's just not going to be able to do that. But if you're going to ask it, which one of these businesses would be better to purchase from a perspective of profitability, it would be able to do that, because if you feed it P&L statements, profit and loss statements, and ask it based off of that information, it would probably be able to tell you. It'd probably be able to tell you based on growth estimations and things like that. And all of that is right within the wheelhouse of AI. It can take the numerical data, the quantifiable data, meaning data that can be put to numbers, and analyze that really well. Whereas qualitative data, meaning data of like which one of these is better, that is something that AIs cannot do. To put it another way, you cannot ask AI what person will steal something. You can't ask an AI that. Now, you can program into it body language and review type and things like that. But AIs always latch on to something very unique. And what we find with AIs, when people try to do these types of things, where they train body language and they try to train information into an AI for analysis like this, you can't ask somebody you can't ask it to tell you if somebody's going to steal, because unfortunately it's going to be inherently racist, because the vast majority of footage that they're going to be fed of people stealing is unfortunately going to be minority groups. And that is how AI is trained. We see this with other pieces of data. When we tried to train AI to analyze moles for melanin, is that what it is? Not melanin. Maybe that is it. I don't know. Anyways, for skin cancer, moles for skin cancer, AI seemed to have a 96% success rate at analyzing moles for cancer. And then what ended up happening is when they actually turned it on into production, when they actually tried to use live data instead of their used data, the AI all of a sudden started failing. It had like a 10% success rate. And the reason for this change was when the AI was trained, it was trained with pictures of moles, and every mole that indicated cancer, skin cancer, had a picture of a ruler in there. There was some sort of ruler in the picture. Either it was a small one that was drawn with pen, or an actual like ruler that they use for measuring, that sort of thing. There was some sort of measurement system in the picture, because why would you measure benign tumor or benign mole? You wouldn't. You'd only measure the malignant ones. And so because the AI was trained on this data, it knew if it saw a ruler that it was cancer. And so that's what it matched it to. And then when you turned it on in production, it failed. And so these are things that you have to understand about AI, is that it can't just know certain things. When you train it, you have to make sure that you're training it with clean data, with neutral data that is unbiased at all, because the AI will pick up on any biases it detects. And this is why when you ask it certain questions, it becomes racist, because that is inherently how computers work. They throw things into extremes, and that is essentially racism. It is an extreme. And so you can't train AI on human data without some sort of inherent flaw in there. Now they are working on this problem, and again, they're building more branches so that as the questions and queries that it's being fed fall down this fucking ugly tree, it will at least come up with the least ugly answer it can. Now, more on AI as a concept, you have to expand your understanding of what AI can do, because it's not just it solves a problem. It can do a lot of things through automation. It can do a lot more through automation than necessarily what a normal human can, because what you can do is you can tell it, hey, when you see these specific characteristics, I want you to do this thing. Now, normally in a computer, you would code that. You'd actually build code to do that. But with AI, the code can become natural language. You can feed it skills that it can then design its own code set on to then perform actions. And that is where AI's strength is now becoming, because what it's doing, and you guys probably noticed this, it is lowering the bar of difficulty for entry for a lot of folks. The skill gap for entry into certain tasks is no longer as high as it once was. Programming, art, music, a lot of different things that can be mathematically designed and defined are becoming it's becoming not as hard to do, because AI is making it easier to realize somebody's vision. And so as a developer, if you're coding your thing, you can ask AI. It's really good at writing code, and you can ask it certain things. You can ask AI, specifically those that have been trained in it, hey, I'm trying to do this, and I want to do it with this data. What is the code that I could do that in JavaScript? And it will give you if it's been trained to properly interpret that data and give you the code, it will be able to provide that to you, and it'll actually give you that information. And whereas back when I started trying to develop my own stuff, I had to search and search and search and try things and fail. And, if I had just had the initial answer that I could tear apart and rebuild and figure out how it worked, I would have been able to learn a lot faster. This kind of does that for you. It finds the information that you want and presents it to you in a way that you can then tear apart yourself to then learn the different components and pieces of it. Now, some of you might say, well, that's kind of cheating with programming. And I have to say, well, fuck off, because the more people we have that can code, maybe the less danger we can be in as a society, because maybe people can understand what the hell they're doing a lot easier. But if you're going to be lazy and you're not going to fact check anything that the AI does, you're putting everybody at risk, because again, AI can just hallucinate shit. It can just make shit up. And you never know when that's going to happen. You don't know if it's going to happen, if it's going to get stuck on an I in a statement, or if it's going to get stuck on the eyeball of somebody when it's drawing. But when it does that, it's going to hit the fucking ugly tree. It's going to hit that branch, and it's just going to look like shit every time. So that's my discussion on AI and how it relates to the ugly tree. Obviously, if you guys have any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, have a great day.